Hey everyone, here's a very old microwave I found on the side of the road last year. I'm gonna go ahead and clean it off and we gotta give this thing a try. It's covered in a good amount of soot because it was stored on the shelf right next to the fireplace. And that soot happens not from it running, but every time you touch it a little bit comes out into the room. This was back in the days before there was a turntable. You'd actually have to take your food and turn it around. Although this is a unusual microwave, I've never seen one like this before. Usually all the controls are on the side of it, and that's where the magnetron is. So that's why you have to turn it to make it even. But is this magnetron directly above it where you wouldn't have to turn it? That's actually very cool if that is the case. This thing's very cool. It's from 1984. And look at the timer. It doesn't have any computer or anything in it, which is fantastic. It's like an old washing machine. It's got a timer, and when it shuts off, it shuts off. There's no electronics at all. That's really cool. So I'm gonna go ahead, get some towels, give it a good cleaning, and then I wanna give this a try for the very first time cooking something. Looking around at it, let's figure out how many watts is this thing. Made in Japan. Things in Japan are usually pretty reliable. Oh, this is an 86. It must be my other one where the panels on the side must be the 84. So is this thing a 400 watt? If it is, it's tiny and it's gonna take forever to actually cook something. I'm used to using a machine that is 1,000. Nice and cleaned up. Let's bring it in the other room and give it a try. That's a rust stain. Maybe like a old paint can or something sat on it for a really long time. Likely when this thing was manufactured, this was probably white. And it just faded from that color, just like our old can opener. See what I mean? See how white it is where the sun wasn't able to hit? This thing's a little bit dirty with oil because I actually just took it apart to lubricate the internal parts as it was struggling in a few recent videos. And this one obviously has really never seen sunshine in its life. The original owner of this probably kept it out on the kitchen counter while that one was probably put away each and every time. We also got some other cool old appliances I can go ahead and show you, like right up over here. We made a video of that. That was really cool. Let's go ahead and plug this thing in. You see, it's old. A new microwave, you plug it in, it goes beep. It doesn't have any of that stuff on here. This thing, I think when it's done, it might have a mechanical bell. If it does, that's really cool. Maybe it has to do it itself or it just has nothing. Let's go grab something in the freezer, like a frozen meal, and just try this thing out, see how it works. This right here is a early 1980s dryer. It works perfect. I got it on Craigslist. I don't know why, back in the day, they got a tiny door, but the interior is just as big as anything else. I don't know why the door used to be so small. This is a 1984. It still runs perfectly. It doesn't have any computer boards. There's no electronics in it. Literally nothing can fail but the switch, which could be replaced. Hear that little thumping sound? At some point it needs a new drive belt. But that's it. That was $10 on Craigslist. It's more reliable than any new machine. And it might use a little bit more power. But do I really care for a machine that runs maybe 1 hour a week? No, I don't really care about that. A new dryer is going to be at least $600 these days. And this washing machine, that was $200 at Rent-A-Center because of the dent in it. Nobody would probably want to rent it, so I bought it for like a quarter of its original price. And this microwave over here, this is nothing special or anything, but This is how I used to take baths when I first bought this house. You see, the old owner didn't winterize it when it went into foreclosure, so the plumbing took years. I had to get it all replumbed. Like you see up here, all this had to be replumbed. All these pipes are brand new. So this is the only faucet I had for years, right here. Got cold water out of there and heated up the water for sponge baths. But this one is way more powerful than the one in my kitchen. Why? The one in the kitchen is 1,000 watts of power. This one must be bigger, but I don't know where I'd see that. I'd probably have to turn it around. I don't think it says anything about its wattage. So it does not tell me what the power is, but it has power levels, so I guess you're supposed to be able to change its power. Like the one in my kitchen, I can change it from anywhere from, I think, 400 to 1,000. Click it. Power level may not be changed at this time. Why? All right. I'll just try making a frozen meal with this. So, and you see how it says mix it? I never actually do that and it comes out fine. I just put it in there for the full 6 minutes when I cook in the kitchen. Never came out weird, never came out crunchy or anything on the edges. So obviously, I think this is gonna take more than just 6 minutes. And I'm curious to know, when I had a old machine where all the controls were on the side, the magnetron that puts out the electromagnetic waves was on this side. So that side would cook faster. Then you'd have to turn it halfway through because there's no turntable. This one appears it might be on the top. So does that mean I don't have to do that? That is actually fantastic if I don't. Let's see. 6 minutes. Let's see how this thing does. It's got a light and everything. In some of my older videos, I was showing a microwave that I had from the 1960s, like one of the very first ones. The metal was built like a tank. You could use it as a step stool without denting it. That thing was really cool. It was also like rounded, you know, it looked like spacey. Right back here, this is a old early 90s stand-up freezer. It's got so much space. It's new enough to be Energy Star rated, but it's old enough that it has no computer modules. Nothing can break on it. And this is actually an outdoor freezer, which is really, really cool. You see, a lot of refrigerators aren't meant to run out in very cold weather. It'll actually ruin the compressor running in those conditions. But this one works fine. It's not on. That's only in case, like, my freezer is actually pretty small. And if I ever wanted to have a party here where we needed to put a lot of food or cakes, this is what this would be used for. The only time I ever used it, and it worked really good, it gets cold instantly, I froze a whole ton of 5-gallon buckets, and we did some target practice with them like a year ago. Yep, same thing with my freezer in the actual house. You see, it's very small, not much space in there if I needed to put a lot of food in there. But this machine, I keep it because it's old enough that it doesn't have any computer modules in it, so nothing can really go wrong electronically. And if something does go wrong, I can probably find the part on the internet and install it myself if something goes wrong other than the compressor. And like down below, it's very simple, this machine. That's why I keep it. It's about 20 years old. It's Energy Star rated, but it has no computer modules. I believe this might have a mercury switch to control its on and off motion. No computer. What a mercury switch does is there is a ball of mercury inside a glass tube. It expands, connects the circuit, turns it on. When it gets cold enough, that mercury is now contracted enough where it breaks the circuit and shuts it off. Wow, I was only out of the room 3.5 minutes. I can smell it. It's definitely cooking it. About another 1.5 minutes. I'm very curious to know if this is going to have a bell. Years ago, I was at an estate sale, and they had a working refrigerator from like 1950. It was so cool. Nobody wanted it. It was a heavy beast, and the guy running the estate sale kept saying to everyone, if you want that, it's free, and I'll deliver it if you want to pay me like $20 if you live around here. I really wanted that thing, but I didn't have a place to put it at the time, and also, that is more of a novelty. That thing would have been an energy hog. unlike these other machines that are only like 20 years old. A 70-year-old refrigerator would have been a huge energy hog. I just know it. But it was really cool that it was still working and everything. That's back in the day when 90% of it was a refrigerator and it had that tiny little freezer box in there. And they weren't frost-free either. You had to shut them off like once a year and let it drip out. It was a cool machine, and it was made by General Motors. If I ever find another one, preferably a smaller fridge. Back in the day, most refrigerators were tiny because most people went shopping more often. It wasn't preservatives and things. Yeah, most people ate better and fresh food. All right, this is about to shut off, so let's see. Is it going to make a noise? It might have a bell, but maybe not. That's when I turned it on before, I thought that would have wound it up and it didn't ding. It might just shut off. Let's see. Any moment. Any moment. Any moment now. It doesn't have any kind of bell or anything. But is it cooked? No. It's still cold on the bottom, but it didn't do a bad job. Yeah, see? Yeah, that's still completely frozen. Yeah. If this was my 1,000-watt one in my kitchen, I would have been able to just stir it and go and eat it right now. Like I said, I don't stir it halfway through. But even 6 minutes, it's still too hard. You wouldn't even be able to stir it yet. So let's put it back in for... Let's give it another 6 minutes because it's still very well frozen. And I'll be back in the room in a little bit. So that 400-watt microwave, would that be able to be plugged into the back seat of my car without blowing a fuse? I'm sure it's got a little safety factor above that, right? And this right here is a trickle charger because I have a huge power bank I keep in the car in case I got to sleep at night. It keeps a big battery charged. And that big battery supposedly can put out like 1,500 watts. So I could even have a giant microwave, but no, I don't need a microwave in the car. I'm just curious if this could run it. So these are solar panels you can put out if you're camping or you're just trying to get a little bit of free power at an off-grid camp. These things open up into big panels that can supposedly charge my really big battery that I currently got plugged into the car there. So, yeah, that's kind of cool. I want to use them in a camping video sometime next year. I didn't get the chance this year to go really far off-grid and do that. In the winter, I don't think they'd perform very well, but that would be cool to try to run things out in the middle of the wilderness with this power bank. It can supply anything up to 1,500 watts. But I know this won't produce power to actually maintain the charge while running things, but things like a refrigerator that aren't always on all the time, that'd probably work fine. All right, I'm thinking it might be cooked now. Now remember, this thing is less than half the power of the microwave I usually use. This is only 400 watts. So that would mean it would probably need more than double time. We're about to be done with double time, and let's see if it's done or not. I guess it's also had more time for the heat to penetrate, so maybe it won't take a full double time. We'll see. I've never cooked anything with this thing since I found it free on the side of the road somewhere. It's a cool little thing. You know, it's actually really, really hard to find microwaves that are this small. And you can't find ones with the top anymore like that. Not that I've seen on the internet. One thing that's really cool, they have really teeny microwaves that are only 100 watts, but they're so rare and hard to find. They're for like just a coffee cup. Now that teeny little thing like that, that'd be kind of cool to have. It's about to go. Let's see if 12 minutes of time was enough to cook this. Any second, come on. Can we feel anything cold? No, I'm pretty sure it's not going to need any more extra time. Yeah, that is cooked all the way through now. Is it? I'm feeling around for like ice or anything frozen that might be in the middle of this. We're going to see. Am I finding any frozen patches? No, it's cooked through. It just needed double time and it worked. That's kind of cool. And I hope today's little video of this microwave was interesting, everyone. As soon as that cools down, that'll be my dinner.